Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode, podcast, stream. What's up, everybody? I am joined here by Tyler Drake of Arizona Sports. Today, we're going to be chopping it up, talking everything Arizona Cardinals, and we are officially in draft week. I'm super excited about it. Tyler, how are you doing? And are you excited as most fans are?
Yes. Thank you for having me on. Doing good. Nice little day off before the draft week really cranks up for me. I'll be in Detroit in a couple days. But yeah, definitely glad. I think all of us can say right now, draft fatigue is here. Mock drafts out the ears. Let's make some actual picks. Let's get to the future and actually get this thing going.
I agree. I was doing mock drafts in December of last year. So absolutely mock draft fatigue for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. I want to give a real quick shout out to you, Tyler. I want to go ahead and see if you want to go and just do a real quick shout out to your podcast out there. I ended up kind of tuning in with the whole Paris Johnson Jr. thing. So go ahead and give yourself some love and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah. So Cardinals Corner, it's on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader, 98.7. But yeah, Cardinals Corner, it's on Twitter, AZ Cards Corner, I guess I should say X. My co-host Lauren Colville and I just trying to get more and more out there, trying to get more video for you guys. So definitely trying to up the ante each week. So tune in for sure. You can find it on YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts if you want to do it on audio only. So a lot of different ways to listen now. And we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of interesting conversations. Should be bringing on more and more guests as the season gets kicked up. Some more veterans I've got lined up, maybe a couple rookies, hopefully, if it all lines up the way I think it's going to. So definitely stay tuned for that. Definitely tune in. Love any feedback. Love interacting with the fans and all the Cardinals enthusiasts. So yeah, for sure. Find me on there. And you can find all of my work on ArizonaSports.com as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's just jump right into it, right? I think one of the most exciting things that we've heard, obviously the draft is pretty exciting, but having Paris Johnson on your podcast, I think was a huge jump because it got a lot of eyes on it, including myself, where we ended up hearing Paris Johnson come out. And the one thing I really want to focus on here, Tyler, is the fact that he said Marvin wanted to be a Cardinal. Can you go ahead and just explain a little bit more about that? Because of course, that gets fans really excited about it, especially during this dead time. Explain a little bit deeper in terms of what you heard from Paris.
Yeah. And that was by far one of our favorite interviews we've had. Obviously, we've had a couple guys. We've had Lasita Smith, Kelvin Beachum, Bernard Sankovitz. Paris, by the way, though, is just one of the most down-to-earth dudes. First-round pick, but you would think the dude was just a normal, everyday, like just right off the street, maybe undrafted. Like he just is such a humble guy that you wouldn't really think the dude is just that good at what he does. Awesome conversation. But yeah, getting to Marvin, man, it was interesting because we were talking about how he got drafted and just the thought of that. And we brought up Marvin and he's like, when I got drafted, I looked at Marvin. I said, you're a Cardinal, man. Like, you're going to be a Cardinal. And Marvin came back and said, yeah, I would want to be a Cardinal. And obviously, like, Paris after that went back and said, of course he's going to say that. Like, if I got drafted by any team, he probably would have said that. But it just felt like the stars aligned at that moment. I think both of them wanted to. Paris Johnson obviously had the connection with his father formerly playing there. So just all of that together, it just made it seem like, and obviously he hedged a little bit, but at the same time, I think we all saw like Marvin was pretty jacked at the fact that I think he went where he went and the fact that it really could be a potential that he goes there now. So it was a really fun conversation, especially getting to that. And just the fact that Marvin, man, just sounds like he's the real deal on the side of goes to work, very humble, doesn't say a lot, but just leads by example more than telling guys what to do. Paris had a really good example of that he said I'd get there early and Marvin already be there on the jug machine and he'd program it to where he would just work on the jug machine and didn't need anybody else to help him. Like that was the type of workaholic he is. And he had guys like the next day he had multiple wide receivers and quarterbacks coming to help him out at 6 a.m. to run routes and do all this other stuff. And you could just see the Marvin effect. And I think Paris called it Marvin hours because it's just god awful hours. But he's like, if he comes out here, he's going to have to change them because in the desert, it gets way too hot. So he's either going to have to come in super late or super early. And he's like, I'm sure he's going to find a way though, if it happens. So very, very, I know I'm rambling, but very, very fun conversation with Paris for sure. And just a lot of good insight on a potential Cardinal and Marvin Harrison Jr.
No, I appreciate no ram, but keep going. I love it. Honestly. Are they close? Like, are they like, obviously they had the time in Ohio State, but like, are they close now? Did he say anything about that? And like, do they talk now or?
It sounds like they keep in contact. I don't know exactly how close they are, but I know that they have talked. I know they've talked through this draft process. So I wouldn't put it past me. It feels like that Buckeye Nation is always close with one another, especially those big guys coming out. But, I wouldn't put it past it, especially it just seems like the way that they talk about, or I guess the way Paris spoke about Marvin, I think they're closer than just maybe teammates from across the locker room for sure.
Awesome. That's so cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, I think the whole idea of bringing in somebody that's familiar with it's going to be a second year for Paris Johnson Jr. Now, we all kind of like that idea, and it kind of went back to when I started doing this with whole CeeDee Lamb bringing him in for Kyler Murray, and of course, our last regime didn't do that, but it would be kind of cool to bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. when he already knows somebody, right? And I feel like that relationship would be really cool. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to know in the next 4 days. But let's jump into it. Let's talk about the draft. We got 11 picks in the 2024 NFL draft, 6 picks in the top 100. So absolutely super exciting time for Cardinals fans and hopefully this Cardinals organization. But I want to talk about here real quick. I feel like there seems to be a big, I guess, a divide or a division between Cardinal fans. Now, I feel like the Marvin Harrison Jr. camp in terms of Cardinal fans that want Marvin is probably like 70%, maybe 75, but I can't ignore the fact that there is some fans out there that want the Cardinals to probably go offensive line or Joe Alt. Are you hearing the same thing in your platform as well? And what are your thoughts on, I guess, between the two, right? I'm not saying who would you pick, but are you seeing the same things out there?
Honestly, I think it's been more Marvin or bust. And that's just I think at the beginning, let's take it back. I think at the beginning of the offseason for free agency hit, I think that was you could very much make a case. Like, should they maybe trade down, go get an offensive lineman like Alt? And I think Alt would be the guy if that was the case, or if that is the case. But I really think at this point it's Marvin, just on the fact of look at the wide receivers room right now in Arizona. It's just they've got to address that, and they've got to address it right away. And they can't. I don't want to say Monty can't get risky, but they can't risk losing out on one of these top 3 wideouts because they want to stockpile more draft picks. So I think sticking around, getting Marvin, calling it good there, and going. That's the way I see it. And I think that's the way a lot of people are seeing it right now. And I also think the Cardinals adding Jonah Williams also makes that Alt edition not so much like it's not that necessary move. I'd say more of a guard. Right now, in my eyes, I'd say offensive guard is more of a necessity than a tackle because Paris Johnson, Jonah Williams, you've got Kelvin Beachum as the swing, as a veteran swing. Like, you can't really get much better than that right now if you look across the league. That's one of the better setups, I would say, for a tackle spot. So Joe Alt would be a great addition for the future. An awesome pairing with Paris Johnson. But I think right now, the consensus should be and I think should remain to be Marvin Harrison or trying to get a wide receiver before you get an offensive lineman like a Joe Alt.
Yes, I'm so glad to hear you say that. No, because I agree. I'm in that camp as well. Like, granted, I'm not Marvin Harrison Jr. or bust. Now, let me be clear. I want to be clear. I want to get one of those top 3 wide receivers. I feel like that's absolutely more important to get one of those top 3. Obviously, I want Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, but like if Monty decides to trade back, and then trade back up, or now that latest rumor kind of came out about the Giants maybe trading there and getting Roma Dunze, I'm okay with that. I think I would be able to sleep really, really happy at night after day 1 because I agree. But here's the thing. Like, I love to hear the people's perspective in terms of, why they want Joe Alt. What I'm hearing is that we need to focus on the line, but like, you're right. We did bring Jonah Williams. Like, what is that going to mean for Jonah Williams? We just paid him for, 2-3 year deal. And is that going to mean Joe Alt's going to sit in the bench? The free agent guy is going to be right. Like, what? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I feel like it is more logical for the Arizona Cardinals to focus on a position that's a huge need. And then because you're there at 4, we've heard Monty say all the time, it's great to be here, but we don't want to be here ever again. You know what I mean? So you got to go after that generational talent, or at least to me, generational talent in Marvin Harrison Jr. So, okay, I think we can both agree with that. Let me ask you this real quick. The trade down option is still out there. We ended up hearing Monty Austin-Fort come out here, and I'm pretty sure you were in that press conference. He actually ended up saying something that I want to go ahead and play this 30-second clip so we can kind of dissect it together, because I was confident heading, into last week, but like hearing that also kind of made me a little scared because I truly don't know what Monty's thinking. I think I had a good grasp of what Steve Keim was going to do. Literally, it's just wild. I don't know. Sometimes I got it, and sometimes, but Monty, he's literally holding his cards to the chest, and I really don't know exactly. So I want to play this clip real quick, and I want to see if it dissuades anybody else like it kind of did me. So let me dive into it.
Well, I mean, hey, our fans are very important to us. And, I think ultimately what I can promise and what I always promise is we're going to do what's best for the team. We're going to do what's best for the team this year and then also long term. And so, I guess everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got favorites, and that goes with the territory. So, I think ultimately JG and talked about this at length. Like, no matter what decision it is, whether it's draft or free agency or cutting a player or who makes a practice squad, every decision that we make, it will always be what's in the best interest of the team.
Now, real quick, I'm a very panicky fan. I'm fully aware of that. This made me a little panicky. I don't know why. Now, I don't expect them to come out and say, yes, we're going to go after Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Obviously, He needs to say these things. This is smokescreen season, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you think that this dissuaded, I guess, in your opinion, that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be the pick at all, or no?
It definitely, so that quote, it's funny you brought that one up. So that quote and the supply and demand quote that he mentioned about how it kind of things can get pushed around due to the supply and demand. And we know that there's a lot of wide receivers past the 3 that could be serviceable. But yeah, definitely pointed that definitely raised my ears. But at the same time, man, I just think it's too good of a spot to be in to not take the potential generational talent. And he could also, if you really want to dive in and dissect that quote, that could go either way. That could go trading and getting future picks. That could go taking Marvin and being set up for the future. So I think really it comes down to keeping your options open, as Monty very much did throughout that whole press conference. He said he's been getting calls. He's fielding calls. I don't think anything's going to really get ironed out until really draft night, maybe even when they're on the clock and the other quarterbacks have gone off the board, and maybe Minnesota comes up there with 3 first-rounders, and you've got to think about it. It's just one of those things where there's always going to be a price, right? There's always going to be a price, and I don't think I know I've seen a lot of people go with the Vikings give 2 first-rounders and Justin Jefferson, you've got to say yes. I don't think you can say yes to that at all. Just because Justin Jefferson, you got to look at what you got to pay him. You're going to get a Marvin, you're going to get a Rome, you're going to get a Malik on a rookie deal. I mean, yeah, you've got to pay Kyler so much money, but you're finding ways to supplement that with younger guys on this offense, on this team, to where you can really make a run at things. So I really think you've got to take that into account too. So as much as people want a player, Patrick Surtain, a Broncos trade that involves Patrick Surtain, that'd be interesting. That'd be fun. A younger guy. Justin Jefferson, I just think it would demolish a lot of what Monty and them have been building, because it's still a process. They're on to the next phase of this. So I really think they've got to stick around. They've got to make sure they're in a position to get a wide receiver. Let's just say that. I mean, I think Marvin's the number 1 guy in my opinion. He just brings everything you want. Right. He's got the name alone. Throw that in there too. And then after that, I would say Rome and Malik. That's probably my 3 right there. Just get somebody big. And I think it happens, but you just can't get risky. Like I said earlier, you can't get risky and start trading down and maybe not find that trade partner to come back up. That's where things can really, really run amok for this team. And I'm not saying Monty can't pull it off, but it's something you got to take into account, especially after what we saw him do in year 1.
Right. And I kind of feel like because we did see that in year 1, everybody's kind of mocking that to where he seems to love it. And it's true. I think it worked out for the Cardinals, but I don't think we should depend on that so much, especially if Cardinal fans and the media truly feel like this is the route to go in terms of wide receiver, right? Now, we did hear something here pretty recently pertaining to the Atlanta Falcons situation with where they're at right now. Or actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, Falcons. Yeah. Did you hear about that? About them potentially losing draft capital with the whole tampering of Kirk Cousins?
I've heard. I haven't seen anything new though, so I'm not 100% sure there. And obviously the tampering stuff, who knows? That might come out. Like, remember last year with the Cardinals? I mean, that came out right before the draft started. So, I mean, there could be, who knows? There could be. On my end, I don't really know anything new on that, but I think you've got to keep your ears open for that up until I think the first pick's being made.
It's crazy. It absolutely is. And the reason why I flashed over this, the draft order here is because you truly don't know who the Cardinals would potentially trade up with if they did decide to trade down with either Minnesota, which makes the most sense. Minnesota is the most sense. Now, Denver, we've heard Sean Payton come out here. This man is very, very I don't know how to describe Sean Payton, but like he makes it seem like, oh yeah, I could do it. We could do it. And then we ended up hearing him come back and say like, oh, well, it's got to be the right person, right? Got to be the right person. And it makes sense. But like, man, the Arizona Cardinals are such in a good position that I just do not want them to miss out on one of these top 3 wide receivers. We need it so desperately. Need it.
Yes.
What are your thoughts here on, I guess let's talk about the 3 wide receivers. I think I heard you say Marvin Harrison Jr. is your number 1. Who's your number 2?
Rome. I got to go with Rome.
I agree.
I think he's got the physical traits. He's just big. He's a guy that I think could add some even more physicality, even more of a bruising offense, but also be able to take it over the top and be able to really go down there and make some contested catches. I think height is the big thing here, and that's why I have those 2 guys ahead of Malik. They're just a little bit taller, I believe, from what I saw, and just bring a little bit more. I don't know. It just seems like they've got a little more sturdiness to them, and maybe that's just they're bigger. But I think going that route, I think we've seen it. Kyler played really well with Hop. Hopkins had a really good stretch before everything went south there. Hollywood Brown, I think, flashed a little bit, but I think the height thing got him at the end of the day. And I think that's nothing against Hollywood. That's nothing against Kyler. I just think the way the offense is formulated, the way they've got to get the ball to one another, it's just they've got to add height to the position, and Marvin and Rome fill that, and they can create a lot of space, I think. So Malik can really take the top off. He can burn guys, but I really think at the end of the day, it's a Marvin or Rome can really turn the page for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that the offense could definitely make a huge difference for sure. Okay, so real quick, let me just recap. 4th overall pick. I know right now we're sitting on Monday and anything can change. What are your thoughts right now of what you've been hearing going to these, these media pressers and stuff like that? Do you think the Cardinals will stay? And I get it. It just really depends. And I'm not trying to put you out there.
No.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I hate to give you a on the fence answer, but it's what it's going to be. I think Marvin. So let me give it to you this way. If I'm the GM, if I'm Monty, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm making the pick at 4, and then I'm going from there, and I'm trying to work trades, trying to do something else. So that's where I'm at. I think Marvin's the answer there. I think Marvin's what they need. We've seen they've filled holes this free agency. There's one hole that they have not filled, and it's wide receiver, and it needs filled desperately. They can't get away with running out of Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Andre Bocelli type lineup this year like that. You can't do that. Right. All that momentum, which I know Jonathan Gannon doesn't like momentum, but the momentum they built last year, they can't come out and put out something like that this year. They've got to keep the trajectory going up. So I think I think Monty's gonna have the phone ringing up until they pick. I really do, up until he either picks or makes that deal. If he takes a deal, I think it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings. I think the 3 first-round picks is too good to be true. But if that's what gets offered, he had a great quote about, if somebody comes to my house, and I love my house, but if somebody offers me this much more, tell my wife to pack up and we're heading out. So I think 3 first-round picks is the asking price. Do I think teams are going to do it? I think there's only one team that can realistically say that and give the Cardinals enough ammo to really still attack this season on top of building to the future. So if it's not, I guess this is where I'm going to go. If it's not Minnesota, I think they're taking Marvin.
Okay. I like that. Okay. No, that's a good answer. I'm okay with that. I could sleep.
3 first from Minnesota, or they're taking Marvin.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Now I've talked about the 4th round pick, or 4th overall pick for Matum. Let's move on to the 27th overall.
Yeah.
Real quick. So move on over to the 27th overall. We ended up seeing something, and I think I originally saw you, the one who retweeted it. The fact that the Arizona Cardinals, or I guess the thought of, us maybe trading up can be an option. What are your thoughts on that? And I'll do my best to see if I can find that specific tweet so I can read it.
Yeah. That's exactly what I've been thinking they should do the whole time. Like exactly like I just said, they pick at 4, you package up 27-35, 27-66, get back into the teens, you go get an edge rusher, you go get a cornerback, you go from there. I think you attack this year, you're trying to get into the playoffs. There's that stat where at least 4 teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before end up making it the next year. It's gone on for years. It's a wild stat. That's the next step for this team, is trying to at least fight for a wild card spot. And you do that by getting 2 blue chip type of guys in the first round. You start with a wide receiver in Marvin, or a Rome, or a Malik. You turn around, you package up 27 and 35 or 27 and 66. You come back up into the teens. You get a Tyrion Arnold. I think that's the guy that stands out the most. Just his interview with everybody, like it was awesome. I mean, it's exactly the type of guy that Gannon loves, Monty loves, that whole coaching staff loves. So they could land a guy like that. Wow, that would exponentially move things in the right direction. A Dallas Turner, that would be a stretch if they could move up, but adding that guy, pass rusher, you got it solved there. At least you think you might have it solved, at least for the future. So that's where I'm at, man. I really do think you make the pick at 4, and then you let Monty do his trade. You give him that fix. Give him his trade fix. Let him come up. Let him do that. But don't build for the future. Use those picks that you garnered last year. Come up now. Get another one of those top talents and really try to turn this thing up this year instead of one more year down the line. Push everything one more year down the line and then try. Go for it now. See where you land. I mean, worst case scenario, you're back drafting in the top 6, 7, 8, and you try it all over again. But at least you've got 2 legit cornerstone people, one on offense, one on defense, and you roll from there. That's what I think should be. I don't know, but at the same time, you stay at 27, you could still get a guy like Chop Robinson, who I think is another legit potential game changer for this team. So there's 2 options there. I think you stay at 27 and take Chop, or you trade up and you get into the teens, make something crazy happen, get somebody from Alabama, the edge, the corner, and then you go from there.
Absolutely fascinating. Now, I do have the screenshot here of in the X/Twitter world here from Lance Zerline. It says, "I'll be shocked if either Arizona or Washington, or frankly both, aren't moving up some of their enormous stockpiles of draft capital and make a move back into the first. I understand AZ has 2 picks in 1, but I think it's likely they package another pick and upgrade 27." I agree. I did a mock draft. I ended up putting one on the X/Twitter world. I still call it Twitter, whatever. And then I just did another mock draft 2.0, and I got so much flack for the Arizona Cardinals trading up. Now, the thought is edge or corner. It's not that I favored corner over edge. It's just that Tyrion Arnold seems to be such a good fit and such a good Monty and Gannon guy that I'm like, dang, if he slips to 13, 14, 15, that could be a real possibility for the Arizona Cardinals to get rid of one of their 3rd round picks or do a swap. Because in PFF, I ended up kind of doing a lot of crazy swaps for 2nd and 3rd and blah blah blah. But I still do think it's kind of realistic for the Cardinals to potentially get a CB1 and a wide receiver 1. That would be really fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, if Tyrion Arnold's not there either, you got Mitchell still. Yeah, I mean, there's more options at corner, I think. So yeah, man, I think if you can get up there, it's funny. I just did this mock draft with a podcast where they had everybody get in a group chat and you kind of had to go pick by pick your team. So I did really exactly what we just talked about. I did 4. I just said Marvin. I don't even think I gave anybody an opportunity to come offer me any trade because I wasn't doing it. I was going Marvin. And then as I sent that, I said, hey, I'd love to package up 27 and 35 or 27 and – or actually, no, I did that. And then somebody came back, offered me something like, I think 20. And I was like, nope, I got to get the teens. Somebody else was like, oh, I'll do that for 27 and 66. And I said, deal. And it was shockingly, it was Seattle. So I don't know if that would happen in real life, but we got into 16. We got Tyrion Arnold, called it good. That would be a home run for the Cardinals this year if that could happen.
I agree. I feel like that would be fantastic if the Arizona Cardinals could potentially land the CB1 and wide receiver 1. Okay. Fascinating. Okay. Do you see a world where, and obviously be very, very clear, this is all hypothetical, right? We're not Monty. We're just really trying to get down to the nitty gritty and what we feel like is going to happen. I'll be very, very clear. But it still gets me excited. We're 4 days away from the draft. All right. I digress. Okay. So the 27th overall, where do you think we would have to go? If you were just to kind of throw a number out there, you think 13, 14, 15 is realistic, or you think later teens, 16, 17, 18?
I would say the 15 through 17.
Right. Okay.
That's where I feel it. That's where I think maybe if it's the right price and somebody really likes somebody later, maybe you could package those first, the 27 and 35 and come up even more. You could maybe make an argument for that, but I think if you're sticking with the 66 and 27, you're going to have to probably stay in that 15 to 17. But I think you're still going to land. You're still going to get at least one of the top 2 pass rushers or one of the top 2 quarterbacks. So it's a good spot to be in for sure.
Okay. Perfect. No, that's amazing. Is there any other prospect that you've heard that are like, I do got a list here of like all the people that the Cardinals have met with, but is
Mhm.
there one prospect, I guess, outside the first round that you really want the Arizona Cardinals to go after, whether it's like third round, fourth
Mhm.
round, whatever? Any prospects?
I have two, and I don't know. He might end up being a first round guy because he's really impressed this offseason. Darius Robinson.
Hmm.
He's like 33-ish, I think, in a couple mock drafts. So he's right on the cusp. But man, if they could figure out a way to come around and they don't, I mean, if they could address, maybe let's say they address wide receiver, cornerback, pass rusher with Darius, that would be excellent. I think that he's very much impressed. Senior Bowl really took a step. Combine took a step. And then another guy, this guy is, and this one has been because really I've covered this guy when he was in high school, Jacob Cowing. He's a guy from out here too in Maricopa. He at Maricopa High School. I covered him for a couple years. And let me tell you, the dude was a game changer in high school. He's the same exact type of dynamic player that might be an excellent person to learn from Greg Dortch. Like, could be that next slot guy that can really just burn people and would be a later pick. He's familiar with the area. He's familiar with the team. It just makes so much sense. I know for a fact that he caught the Cardinals' eyes at the combine with his 40. So it's going to be one of those things to watch. But yeah, those are two guys I'm definitely watching. Obviously, Chop Robinson, again, like with the Paris Johnson interview, he had a lot of good things to say about Chop, too, on his character and his mentality and his no-quit motor. So those are the handful of guys I'm really looking at for sure, especially the two guys later in the rounds. Yeah.
So you think for sure we're going to double dip in wide receiver, as we should, right?
Yeah, later. Yeah.
Later. Yeah.
And
Okay.
it might not be a number one type big guy. It might be more of a slot guy. But I think they've got to kind of refresh that room. Nothing against those guys. Like Michael Wilson, I think can be a legit wide receiver too if he can stay healthy. Greg Dortch can be a legit slot guy if they give him the opportunity. That's really what it's about. He's got the game. We've all seen he's got the game. It's really about having the opportunity. And how much more do they take away? Like, do they have to take more of the special teams away to give him more of the offensive look? Because they do have DJ Dallas. He could easily go back there and start being the punt return guy, kick return guy, if need be, if they really do think Greg Dortch is going to be that next slot guy for them. So that's something I'm kind of looking out as we get into training camp. But I just think, yeah, that's adding more wide receivers right now is not a bad thing.
I agree. No, I think double dipping is definitely something the Cardinals should do. Jacob Cowing is definitely a guy that has somebody reached out. I forgot whose name was, but yeah, it was like a month or two ago. They're like, the Cardinals are very interested and they showed a lot of interest. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. And exactly what you said, Michael Wilson, I agree. If he could stay healthy, I think he could be a legit number two. We all love Greg Dortch. Let's call it like it is. It's just he's never gotten the opportunity, and it's very unfortunate. But every time he's on the field, he makes plays. So I'm super, super excited to see now him finally getting an opportunity. Let me ask you this real quick before I let you go. The Cardinals also met with two other wide receivers, Brendan Rice, and I think Jalen McMillan as well. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I mean, another two really, really, really solid guys who again, I don't know necessarily if they would be wide receiver one type, but they could easily be the slot type of fill in, be that next guy to really take that position. I mean, again, another name, Rice. Like, you don't have to say much. Like, there's the pedigree there. So it's going to be really interesting to see. There's a lot of wide receivers, and I think that was part of that quote that Monty talked about, the supply and demand of everything is. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that get pushed down because of the, top three guys. And then you've got the next tier of like 5 or 6 guys. There's going to be a lot of guys that get pushed down that are going to end up being game changers for teams just because of the amount of players there are in this draft class that can do that, I think, from the wide receiver standpoint, especially. Like the names you just mentioned, Jacob Cowing. I mean, these guys aren't getting the credit they deserve because there's so many other dudes in this draft class. So don't be surprised when there's 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers rookie year that are showing people up right away. Like, I mean, I don't want to like make an example, but I mean, Tank Dell, I think, showed a lot of people a lot of things that first year. And so I think don't be surprised if we see somebody do similar things that he does that wasn't necessarily on the map quite like a Marvin or a Rome or a Malik are.
Awesome. Super fascinating. All right. Well, let's go ahead and close the shop right here. Tyler, I absolutely appreciate you for coming on. We are going to be closing up shop. Thank you, everybody. If you guys do me a huge favor, smack up the like button. This is your first time here. Subscribe it up and check out Cardinals Corner, or the Cardinals Corner, or is
Cardinals Corner.
Cardinals Corner here
Yep,
on
yep,
YouTube as well as on streaming platforms. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Cards.